Hello and welcome to the BuildASoil YouTube 10x10 Season 3, Episode 4. We're going to do a lot of the same stuff this season with some changes in the quadrants, changes in genetics. We're getting the cover crop going, and today's a big update. So we've got soil tests back. I'm not going to go over them in detail, but we'll loosely talk about it on the 30 gallons and the 3x3. Cover crop has come in since the last time I was here. I was gone. I left town. We went on a business trip to New Mexico. Those of you that came by the booth, I really appreciate you sharing your stories, sharing your flowers with us. I mean, it's pretty incredible to have people come up and drop nugs off at the booth. And I actually was doing the same. Those of you that hung out with us, burned with us, we really appreciate it. It means the world. It reinvigorates all of us. The whole crew was down there. Kevin from Root was there. AJ was down there. We had a couple people come and visit and hang out with us that were customers and also friends. And so we had like a team there. And we got fully re-energized, hearing all the stories. New Mexico's just blowing up right now. Everybody's getting a license. It's gonna be insane. But I guess the moral of the story is I had to leave. And so I wanna go over the seeds. We actually had a couple things go wrong with the seeds, and I wanna discuss that so we can teach you how to avoid those issues. We've done lots of seed germination tutorials in the past, and this time we did the laziest method possible, and then we left town. And it was horrible timing. I think literally in the episodes I said, make sure you're not leaving town when you plant the seeds, and make sure you don't have a business trip coming up. Probably because I knew I did have one coming up. We hadn't worked out the final details, but we had to leave. And we're doing another 10x10 where we're just starting over 1,500 tomato and cucumber seeds, and that's for our greenhouse. Well, I guess think about the discipline that's required to run a garden, to start seeds. And there's certain key moments that are so pivotal, it's probably best to plan them when you're not gonna be leaving for a little bit of time. Either way, I'll show you what happened. So we'll discuss that. I'm also gonna show you, I brought some earth boxes in here, and we're gonna go over the 30-gallon soil test, at least very loosely, and then we're gonna do an episode on what we're actually gonna do based on the soil test. Talk about what we're gonna do there, and then I also have some updates coming as far as what the next steps are to actually get these quadrants popped off, and part of that is doing DNA testing with Farmer Freeman. He's sending us his pack in the mail. We'll have all of them so that we can clip a piece of the tissue, slip it in the sleeve, and send it out. We're gonna do that next week. And that's when we're gonna label every single seed that we're gonna be tracking as far as male or female. When the results come back, we're gonna move the males into another tent, and we're gonna start to separate females based on how healthy, the structure, just little basic characteristics. Because when you pop a whole bunch of seeds, you're gonna get some runts, you're gonna get some weird things. And we could keep them all, but I'm not gonna run all of them here. We have a limited plant count, and I wanna make sure that we have each quadrant identified with the plants that we're going to run as soon as possible. So I expect that next week we'll do the DNA testing. We'll have the results within a few days. So within 2 weeks, we'll know exactly what's going on in here, probably within the next few episodes. So thanks for following along. Let's show you the seeds. Let's get into the problems that I had. The reason we started this was to document. And part of documentation is it's not really a marketing thing in the sense that you don't get to make it perfect. We're doing this live as things happen. So if I make a mistake, you get to see the mistake. And those are always learning opportunities. And this one was 100% my fault. I'm a little embarrassed to admit that, but I feel like it's the right thing to do. In the garden, there's not really anybody else you can blame. I wish I had other people in here doing things. We left town, but the mistake was made before we left. So it wasn't my staff's fault, it was all my fault. That being said, I know what I did. And sometimes when you're good at it and you know you made a mistake, it hurts twice as bad as not knowing what you did and realizing you're just a beginner. So either way, we'll go over it. When I show you what happened, I think you're gonna laugh because really, it's happened to all of us. And what sucks is usually it's expensive seeds and it's the ones we care the most about that it happens. Like we pop some random seeds that we made or some seeds that we don't care that much about, like the freebie that you get when you buy a whole bunch, and they pop like 100%, and then you really care and you f it all up. So I think that we relate to that. If you've got a story where maybe you messed up a round of cuts or you killed a whole bunch of seeds, maybe you can help me feel better about myself by sharing some of those stories in here, post them up. I'll share with you one more experience that I had when I was brand new. At least growing like from named seeds and like trying to do the whole deal. And so I'd placed an order overseas, and the seeds were coming in, and it was like past the first hurdle where at least I got the seeds. I know a lot of times they'd go missing in the mail or whatever would happen at customs. So I got these seeds and I popped all of them. And that was all the money I could afford at the time to buy these seeds. And so I didn't really have a backup plan. And I was so careful with them. I got like a grow light bulb, and since I didn't have like my grow room set up yet, I had to stack like boxes and put Tupperware on top of it. I just overdid everything and I killed every single seed, and I was really sad. I had to wait another month to get seeds from overseas and spend the money again. And then after that, I didn't make the same mistake. I just simplified it a little bit. And so hopefully I can do that for you today, show you what I did wrong. But I wanted to share that story because it's not the first time. I'm sure it's not the last time. This is the most embarrassing time since it's most public, but we even talked about it behind the scenes. We were like, maybe we just put more seeds in and don't say a thing. And I thought, you know, this whole episode or this whole series has been based on transparency. It's been based on honesty, and it's been based on the fact that we're not perfect and we just show you what we do. And so don't go too hard on me, but please share some stories and let me show you what we did. I popped a whole bunch of new seeds. I've actually got some from the first round because I didn't kill them all. Luckily, I had backup of almost all the genetics, and of the one pack that I didn't, I got enough germination where I'm confident we'll still have the same plan for this go. I just might have a lot more Pakalolo 1 to choose from because those did really well. Let's go take a look. I'll show you what's going on. Here's the newest seeds, and you'll see a couple different soils. The technique is what matters most, not just the soil. I also wanted to show people that my mistake was my mistake, not the soil. I've used various recipes for a long time. I've popped seeds in 3.0, light, pro mix, all the different things for years. And I want to just share that with you so that maybe you don't get so particular about exactly which medium you use. So here's BuildASoil Light. This is Pakalolo the 1. And these are coot seeds. We got 100% on that set. And that's really good to see. We killed a whole bunch of them the first time, and I'll explain that right now. This is a brand new Timber Light. And I have it kind of cockeyed right now because it's helping with the background light in here. This new light is so much more powerful than I gave it credit for the first day. When I popped the seeds, I did direct soil, which I still like. If this was all the same thing, I did direct soil sowing. But the one thing I said you can't do is let them dry out. And what do? I start them on a Friday before I go home for the weekend, before a business trip the next week. And so when I went home, I didn't have my work keys on me. And we tried to come back in the morning, my wife and I did, and the door was locked. I couldn't get in, and so I had to wait. I came back, finally got in here and unzipped the tent, and I can show you the notes on here, but I just wrote, like I was trying to pretend like it didn't happen. Well, a lot of them were fried. And I just barely put the seedlings in and covered them and was hoping the humidity would kind of cover it for me, but I didn't have any domes on here. And the new light had a lot higher par than I had anticipated, blasting right down on there, kind of putting the moisture in the air. We had the fan moving and the humidity wasn't set high enough. And so we just roasted the seeds. It is what it is. Some of them made them, some of them didn't. I kept all the ones that made it over here, and they're all looking really good. I have a few that are really small. That's actually from this set. I had another tray here that I just popped some random ones just in case that were of different genetics that we hadn't talked about putting in the tent. Well, happy to say we won't need those, but I set a few of them down there. I'll probably bring some home, maybe give a few away. The smallest ones there were Rootwise's seeds. Nobody knows that he makes seeds, but he's a legend and he's got some really good seed packs. And that was Royal Hot Toddy. So Kevin, if you're watching this, I popped a few. I'm probably gonna run it home. Let's get to the next tray. And this is what we did right this time. I just put some domes on here instead of the big carrier trays that I was using. The dome wouldn't fit on. And I only had to water it one time. The day I watered them, I put the dome on and they stayed wet the entire time until they all germinated, which is the way to go. What happens when they start to get dry on top and you mist it, if you're in a living soil, that can cause damping off. Constantly re-misting the moist or adding moisture to the top surface there, it fires off a lot of the bacteria. I mean, it's full of compost and rove beetles, and I mean, everything's in there. And if you get a seed that gets weak at all, it just gets consumed. And so some people are actually scared to use living soil to start seeds. I do it all the time, as you can see, with great success, but the humidity dome helps the initial watering lock it in and seal the seed so that we don't have to worry about misting it all the time. And had I just raised the humidity up to like 95-100% in here, it would have been fine. But it was kind of a waste because water gets all over the tent. It gets condensated. It's easier for me to just throw the dome on. That's what I've done in every season in the past. I kind of just got a little bit overconfident because we had so many seeds. I didn't want to deal with the labor that it took to go get the domes, clean the domes, get the trays, put them all in here. And moral of the story is if you get lazy and you start cutting corners, even if you're good at this, you can make some pretty grievous mistakes. So now that we're back on track, I want to talk about the next soil that you see here. There's actually 2 different recipes in here that we're testing. We've been testing it for a while. I want to slow walk releasing it. Seedling soil is important, but we also don't sterilize things around here. And so I've been playing with the balance, but Pro Mix comes sterilized. And it comes with perlite, which we normally never use, but it creates a really soft texture, and it has a finer texture of peat moss, and it's been sterilized. And then it's inoculated with a bacteria that helps stop damping off. And that's what they use at big commercial nurseries because they don't want anything living soil there, right? They want it all sterile. And so I've stayed away from it. But one of the things that I have realized as we start to get bigger is allocation of certain ingredients are hard to come by. So if I'm gonna be adding a new recipe, it made more sense to me to buy the value-added product from our peat moss manufacturers because They only have so much of the raw peat available, but their value-added product they will sell you because they make more money off of it, and they're experts in texture. That's all they've done. Work with greenhouses, get the texture perfect for germinating seeds, make sure that it's sterile, all the stuff that we don't do. We're not about some perfect texture, we're about living soil, rock dust and worm castings and stuff that's kind of the antithesis of the normal horticulture industry. So instead of fighting them completely on that and trying to make our own seedling soil, which we've done in the past and it wasn't that great, we just stick to what we're good at. We make living soil. And so we took Pro Mix here, and what I did is we just added worm castings. We added rock dust, and we added a little bit of calcium, and we added some micronutrients, everything that the plants would need. So that my one gripe with Pro Mix is as soon as you pop the seed, you need to start feeding it. And in organics, we're not that great at feeding. We want the soil to do the work. So we mixed Pro Mix together. We're gonna offer this as a seedling soil for people that are worried about using like a full living soil to germinate seeds, and also for people that have smaller cells on the big trays, want to germinate vegetable seeds, all that stuff. This will be our premium seedling soil. Half of this has a marking on it and half doesn't. So this is the Pocololo one, but this one says M, and that's for Montana Grow. So this one has a weight amount of Montana Grow in them, and that's half of them. And then this one right here, so this is the Montana Grow, these 5. These 5 are without it. And they all had a similar germination. Now I'm gonna track and see if there's any differences in the growth, just kind of a miniature side-by-side between the same seeds. And over here we did the same thing. So we had some in a Montana Grow and some in not. And these are seeds. This is the Soleil Levant, and that is from Kid Kaya. Great local breeder. He makes really fire seeds. All the growers here have used them. And we all smoked on that Couchant, really liked it. So I'm planting these. We didn't get 100% yet, but I looked and those 3 are about to pop. We'll update you on that as we move further forward. Let's see if there's a difference in Montana Grow versus not right now. Montana, not, and not. So far, no clear-cut difference between the Montana Grow, but I do suspect that we'll see a difference as the plants continue to grow. We've been using Montana Grow a lot more in our soil mixes, and so I'll start talking about some of the results that we've seen. But for now, I want to show you the seeds. These are all Pocololo 1, so we're gonna have 20 to choose from, plus we have more over there that made it into the first round. So we're gonna have some that we're just not gonna be able to keep. I'll probably bring some home. We're gonna do our best to keep all the males and look for characteristics as we run the females that we can translate so that we know how to make selections, and we'll talk about that as we go. All of it's just my personal preference, and we'll be sure to mention that, but that's what's coming down the line with all these seeds. So not all of them are gonna get grown here in this tent, but we're gonna work with all of them at some point. Part of the reason why I want to tell you about the Montana Grow is because we're using it more. I've got a recipe where we added more than we ever have to it. We're doing some testing on. I think it's exciting, and I want you guys to hear about it. So look forward to Robbie from Montana Grow coming down and doing a YouTube like kind of hangout or product highlight, but it's gonna be more than that. He's a super smart guy. He did a special on green mining and got really into it, and that's how he came to find the mine that produces Montana Grow. So I really can't wait to share the story and talk about why we use it. So look for that episode coming out soon. Beyond that, I have some seeds over here from the first round. We're gonna do a whole episode soon on DNA testing, where I've got to show you the plants, and we're gonna cut a piece off, and we're gonna send it to the lab to find out if they're male or female, unlike last time where we waited at about 6 weeks time once you've planted them from seed. And that's not a hard and fast time frame, but that adds a lot of time to our season. And with this many seeds, I don't really want to wait that long. So we're gonna send it off for DNA testing. We'll tell you how it works. It might be something that you can do in the future as well. And then let's talk about the other quadrants. But if you have questions about the seedlings, what we did differently, I kind of jumped around a little bit. The key thing was don't let the top of the soil dry out. And if the only way you have to do that is to mist it constantly, you raise the chance of damping off. I really prefer to either jack up the humidity in the entire tent, which is kind of a waste since it's so big, or just use the domes. The domes are so helpful. Then you only water it that one time. It holds the moisture in there. And if you watch our past series on planting seed, it'll really detailed highlight those things. We have several videos on starting seed. I broke the cardinal rule. I blasted them with intense light, let them dry out, and then right in the time I could have maybe nursed some of them, I left town. So plan ahead a little better than I did, and I promise you'll have really good success with your seedlings. So I brought the soil test out for the 30 gallon of light soil. And if I look, I think this one's the one that says tested right here on the tag. So this is the one that we soil tested. But the cover crop is now germinated. And so whatever we do to these beds, I'm just gonna sprinkle it on top, smash the cover crop down and work it all into the soil. And I'll show you that day exactly what we do. Anybody can do this. You can get the books. You can work on your own soil testing. If it's too much for you, we've got some great services that would be happy to help you with it. As far as the actual test, we'll go over it in detail, but we'll just give you kind of a glimpse here. pH dropped a little bit in the mix. Organic matter's high. Phosphorus is still decent in this recipe, but potassium dropped pretty low. When we look at the order of things, sodium is down low, everything looks really good. Calcium is at the top of the list. There's definitely some work we can do here. Nitrogen dropped down fairly low. It's at about 50 pounds per acre. That's not too bad though, right? There's still some in there. I usually like to be at about 100 pounds per acre. Normal crops, you might go a lot higher than that, but I like to be able to supplement with amino acids, and I don't want them to have too much nitrogen. So it's not completely exhausted, looks pretty good. And then we can see on the saturated paste test, this is just what's water soluble. This is a chemical extraction. This tells you everything in the soil forever, like the savings account. This tells you what's only water soluble and the plant will see that day. Soluble salts, pretty good, so there's a decent amount of nutrients in there. At least it's not completely low. But chloride and bicarbonate, like non-existent. So this soil is gonna be easy to remedy, easy to re-amend. Phosphorus availability looks a little bit low, but we can totally get that back up into the swing of things. We'll do a really detailed episode on this. I know some of you have asked for that, and we did it at least once before when we re-amended the 3x3, but I'll talk about specifics a little more this time. We're gonna do one 30-gallon according to that soil test, then the other 30-gallon, I'm just gonna go through and say, let's say you did not do a soil test, because it's not worth it on a 30-gallon, right? Maybe it is just to know, but I don't want you thinking you have to do this. This is like farm stuff. So if you've got a 10x10, a whole bunch of soil, do a soil test, get it out of your system. But I'm gonna show you, just shooting from the hip, the BuildASoil way, how we would treat this. And I've got a new BuildASoil feeding schedule. I know it's been years since we've updated it. I don't like feeding schedules. I'll talk to you about why, but we created a new one, eliminating some of the products that don't care anymore, putting back our new products that replaced it. And I wanna go over in more detail how to use it, because you can just do water only, or you can go more detailed in that system. And I want you to understand why. And then we're gonna duplicate that system right here, so you can see that the system works without soil testing or anything like it. And then if we go to the 3x3, I've got a soil test here, and it looks pretty similar. pH is a little bit more stable on this one. Phosphorus is significantly higher, almost excessive on this one. And that's due to the re-amending from the last round. Potassium still dropped, not quite as low as the other one. So this bed was holding slightly more stable. It had less soluble salts, but everything else looks like it's holding really well. We'll go in detail over this 3x3 take and bake. This is on round 3, and so we'll be able to show you yet again what another re-amend looks like according to a soil test, and we're gonna grow in it again. So this is the no-till bed. It's alive. We're gonna keep it that way. It's got worms in it, cover crops going. We'll show you what we do to keep this thing going. And then we're gonna build a 4x4 over here where you see these seedlings. It's crazy how powerful this light is. Like, that's like 600 par on the floor, and I've got it all the way up here. So I'm gonna get the par meter out. We'll talk about DLI. We'll talk about these lights versus the cobs versus the strips. But here we have a 4x4 bed, and it may not look like much bigger. It's the same footprint, but that's only 9 square feet. That's 16 square feet. It's almost double the size. Like, it's a significant difference in soil volume, and we're gonna do honor to the Pakalolo 1 that we're gonna grow there because it's Coots seeds. We're gonna make a Coots recipe from scratch, and you can copy it without BuildASoil products. You can go get your own worm castings, you can find your own local compost, and we'll discuss the pros and cons, what to look for a local compost so you know if it's good or not, and we'll make it. A lot of people said that they liked watching us mix the soil for the original season 1, and that's just a take and bake recipe. I wanna teach the Coots recipe because it's timeless, and it's not something that's one of our inventions. And in that way, I feel like it's full transparency. We're just teaching you a recipe, not our recipe, and it'll help you be independent. In this quadrant here, underneath these seedlings is where we're gonna put the earth boxes. I know a lot of you guys have asked questions about earth boxes, and I've seen so many of you buy them, jump in, and have just gorgeous grows with them. But in these earth boxes, we're gonna run the autoflowers, and I'm gonna do 2 each, and I think you're gonna be blown away. I wanna show you that if you're running any plant, but also autoflowers, how these can just supercharge your grow, because one of the limiting factors of an autoflower is you only have so much time. Organics can be perceived as slow. When you have a reservoir of water underneath sub-irrigating, you do like a hydro soil paradigm that provides fast growth once they hook up. And with 2 plants in each, it's really gonna help make sure that we start burning through the water in here, and I think we're gonna see some explosive growth. So look for that. I'm gonna put the wheels in, I'm gonna put brand new soil in here so you can see how we set up an earth box from scratch. In the past, we've done a no-till earth box, and we've done a new earth box, and we've shown how they both work. We're gonna do that again, but we're gonna move that to the vegetable 10x10. We're gonna take the old soil that we used from the last round, the old 5 gallons, and I think we have another 30 gallon that we're not using. We're gonna dump it all into a super sack. We're gonna mix it together and just kind of re-amend it. with craft blend, without a soil test, to be used for vegetables. So that's the earth boxes. We decided on 2 brown, 1 green, just based on what we had in stock. You try the earth box and see what you think. I'll always have 1 or 2 around. My favorite style is to do the big beds, and I think that's what really gets me going. But a lot of people aren't in a situation where they can do that. But the earth boxes are super powerful. We'll revisit that as we go later into the season. Like, it's gonna start going really fast around here. So if you haven't done so already, make sure that you subscribe. It might be going a little bit slow right now, but I promise you, it starts to pop off quick, and you're gonna look around, there's just gonna be colas in here full. We're gonna have the veggie tent going hard. We're gonna zen out that whole tent once we get the tomato seeds out of there. And we're finding time to actually document our greenhouse farm where we grow vegetables for restaurants and for locals, and that content is gonna be produced too. So very quickly, almost more than I can keep up with. Subscribe, hit the like button, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like, just keep it real. And we appreciate you. Thanks so much. This has been episode 4, and I'll see you on the next one.